Oftentimes we want a task to happen in a particular interval. That's especially true in creating things like clocks, creating games, or performing animations. Visual Basic has a timer control that makes those things very simple to do. 3 examples here. You can see I have a little clock running down here in the bottom left of my application. It's being updated every second. I also have a countdown timer that can count down from 10 to 0 or some other number besides 10 that I can select in the combo box here. Once it gets to 0, that countdown timer stops. But if I do, say, 20 and reset, and I can start that back down again. Over on the right-hand side, I have a stopwatch that goes the opposite way. Every 1/10 of a second, it's going to update the stopwatch. And I can pause, and I can restart. In accomplishing this, I actually have 3 different timers that I'm using. A timer for the clock, a timer for the countdown, and a timer for the stopwatch. Let's take a look at the project. For the interface, I have a label down here at the bottom left called LBL Clock. Another label, LBL Countdown, with 3 buttons of BTN Reset, BTN Start, BTN Pause, and a combo box called CMB Seconds. That allows me to select how many seconds I want to have to start the countdown timer. On the right-hand side, another label called LBL Stopwatch, BTN Reset SW, SW standing for stopwatch, BTN Start SW, and BTN Stop SW. I have 3 timers. TMR Clock is my timer to control the clock at the bottom. Its interval is set to 1,000. That's once every second. That interval's in microseconds. And the enabled is set to true. That allows the tick event of the timer to execute. TMR Countdown also has an interval of 1,000, but here the enabled is set to false. That countdown timer doesn't start until I click the start button, which turns the enabled property true. And same thing with TMR Stopwatch. Its enabled property is also false, but notice the interval here is 100. That's 1/10 of a second. Again, there's 1,000 intervals in 1 second. These are in microseconds. Let's jump over to the code. In the code, I have 2 variables, seconds remaining and stopwatch seconds. One's an integer, one's a double. The seconds remaining is a whole number, whereas the stopwatch seconds has a decimal value. Private sub update clock is handling my clock timer, TMR clock.tick event. That tick event is what happens every one of those intervals that is fired. And so here, every second, it's going to take LBL clock.text and have it equal to datetime.noun.toString. That shows the date and the time to the second of the system clock. Then I have my code for the countdown timer. So here again is the tick event for TMR countdown timer. So when that timer is firing, I'm going to look at the seconds remaining. If it's greater than 0, I'm going to reduce the seconds remaining by 1. And I'm going to set the LBL countdown label.text equal to the seconds remaining.toString. If, however, we've hit 0, that's the else, I'm going to disable that timer. So TMR countdown.enabled equals false. That keeps the timer from firing. BTN Reset sets the seconds remaining to where the value is of the combo box CMB seconds.text, and sets the countdown label text to the seconds remaining as a string. When they click the start button, it simply enables the countdown timer. So that's set to true. If they pause it, it disables that, setting enable to false. For the stopwatch, kind of the same thing. I'm going to set for TMR stopwatch.tick event that handles every 1/10 of a second that the timer is firing. I'm going to increment stopwatch seconds by 0.1 and set the text of LBL stopwatch to whatever the value is of stopwatch seconds. Reset button, setting the stopwatch back down to 0 and showing that text in the label. And then my start and stop buttons for the stopwatch simply are changing the enabled property of that timer to either true or false. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.